We have four massive stories to break down today. In today's latest news, we discuss Pochettino as he pinpoints the 5 stars he hopes to build his team around once he becomes our new manager. To follow on from this, we have massive reports around Neymar Interest. We discuss Joao Felix on a permanent stay, and we have interesting updates around Gavi of Barcelona. So right now, my friends, we got a ton of things to break down. This summer is set to become another massive summer window. So if you like today's video, you guys know what to do. Hit that like button. I'm not going to ask for no more numbers anymore, because for me it's simply this. If the video doesn't get enough likes, it tells you that I need to work harder for the next one, and that's the type of energy I want to have with the summer now. So hope you guys enjoy. Share your thoughts, opinions in the comment section, and without wasting any more time. So right now, let's start with things and let's talk Pochettino updates. Now we have 2 reports today, one from Matt Law and one later this evening from the Daily Mirror. We start first with Matt Law, and he continues to reconfirm the fact that Pochettino has completed formalities, which means that he is set to sign for us before the end of this week, which is, I guess, music to everyone's ears. And on top of this, once Pochettino finally signs for us, expect N'Golo Kante to finalise his contract extension too. And Matt Law revealed something quite interesting in the article. He said that Kante and Pochettino have lots of mutual respect for each other, and I'm really curious to know how they form that relationship. But for me, I think it's quite simple. I think if Kante is excited to work with Pochettino, maybe we should all be excited too that Pochettino is the guy that the players really believe in and really want to play under. Now, let's turn to the Daily Mirror's reports, and this was quite interesting. It reveals that there's 5 stars that Pochettino hopes to work under, and those guys are Ben, Reece James, Badiashile, Colwell, and N'Golo Kante. And let's continue with N'Golo Kante because Pochettino has revealed his role for Kante for next season, and he plans to use him as a CDM. He wants Kante to protect his back 4. And for me, this is music to my ears because, listen, we all know that Kante plays further up the fields. We all know this guy has incredible counter pressing. We all know that he can carry the ball up the field. He has all these qualities. He's played in this role throughout his career. But at the same time, let's not pretend that Kante's game can't transition into playing a lot deeper, especially as this guy's getting older, because he is 32 years old. And I think, for me, let's look at the details behind why I feel like Kante could play a lot deeper as a CDM. Number 1, when it comes to defending counterattacks, this guy normally supports the fullbacks either side, and traditionally that's what you want your CDM to do. Number 2, when we're defending deep as a team, it's normally Kante who's winning those balls in front of the back 4 and kick-starting other attacks. And number 3, this guy has elite positioning. One of the reasons why he is so incredible at counter-pressing is because he's constantly in the right areas and positions at the right time. He reads the game to a world-class level. He knows where to be to prevent danger. And for me, it's simply this. As he's getting older, I feel like we can get more years from Kante if he plays slightly deeper and plays more as a CDM. I feel like we're so used to using like deep-lying midfield players or reducers to be at the base of our midfield 3, but just because that's one way to use them doesn't mean that you have to exclusively use registers every single time. You can use CDMs. We do have players like Enzo, Mason Mount, players that can affect the game in the final third, that have those box-to-box abilities. They have the qualities to drop deep as well too. It's not like Kante is terrible on the ball and really struggles to play out. I mean, the guy is very good technically and very good at passing. And I guess for me, the reason why this excites me the most is that hopefully this means that other players can start to shine a bit more offensively. Because for me, one thing I haven't been impressed with Kante's game, and he has been playing more attacking these days, is that he doesn't have that box threat. I mean, when he's finding himself inside the box, he can't score. And it's like we constantly do this thing of like misprofiling guys and misusing them. And, having other players' games getting affected by things like that. And I feel like right now it's about balance. And I think if Pochettino is seeing Kante as a CDM, I am more than happy with this news, and I'm really excited now for what next season brings. So that is the first story out of the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. Do you think that Kante should play deeper, or do you prefer how he plays right now? Let us know below. So I guess right now, let's move on to discuss one of the massive stories today, and we have more updates over Neymar. It has been reported today that Neymar is more than open now to leaving Paris Saint-Germain, and he is open to finding the right project, ideally in the Premier League. And I find this kind of interesting because, as I discussed in yesterday's video, and watch that if you haven't watched it to get more insight behind Pochettino and his plans for next season. But Pochettino wants to sign a few more experienced guys to add to all the incredible high potential youth we currently have. And technically, Neymar does fill that experienced role. I mean, this season, the guy has 20 goals and 14 assists in 32 games. I mean, that front three at Paris Saint-Germain have scored over 100 goals already. I can't remember the last time that Neymar had a bad season. Maybe sometimes the numbers fluctuate, but in terms of what the output, it's at the highest levels of football. And to be honest with you guys, I've never really understood why Neymar has this type of reputation with Premier League fans in particular. I feel like their general consensus around Neymar is based off watching the odd game in the Champions League where Paris Saint-Germain get knocked out and it's like, oh, okay, Neymar's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. But we do know that this story has been simmering very slowly behind the scenes now for over the past 12 months. Now let's turn our attentions back to February. That was when it was first reported that Todd BOEHLY had met up with, Paris Saint-Germain's chairman to basically apologize for the failed move for Ziyech, and at the same time also hold potential talks around the availability of Neymar. Now, we know that Paris Saint-Germain have been open now to allowing Neymar to leave, but Neymar earns around 40 million euros a year. And due to those wages, there's only a handful of clubs that Neymar can realistically sign for. And, Man United and Newcastle have been linked with moves. But if Neymar was to leave, he's probably looking at a club like us. And I remember talking about this story last year too, where, Mr. Egbali, Todd BOEHLY, ideally they'd love to sign a real global superstar that has real global clout. And there's not many players like that, but Neymar most definitely fills that criteria. Now, reports today state that Paris Saint-Germain are open to a sell, and they're also open to a loan move with the option to buy at the end of the loan spell. And this is where things get even more interesting, because I'm going to discuss Joao Felix later, but for this point, if we were to make a move for Neymar, then most definitely we're not looking to sign Joao Felix at all. I feel like this summer is going to be very interesting because there's tons of great targets available in this window now in positions that we need to fill. Right now we have unanswered questions on, players that we own, players that we want to sell, and players that we could buy depending on many variables and many factors. But do I think that Neymar would be a terrible move to make if we're really looking to restructure the squad right now and make bold changes in terms of how we use our attack? Then I can't stand here and tell you guys no, because Neymar is still world class. He hasn't fallen off. He's still at the highest level in the game. He's one of those guys that tons of players would learn from. He's one of the most creative players in world football. He's one of the most entertaining players in world football. He is one of the most marketable players in world football. And to be honest, the Premier League doesn't have too many superstars of that type of global reach. I see a Mudryk benefiting from learning from Neymar, and in the next season or two, being ready himself to fully own and earn that left wing spot. I mean, I've got a ton of things to say about this story, but I kind of feel like it's best to wait for more reports to come out, because I believe that more reports most definitely will come out over the next few weeks and months. So I'm going to ask all you guys this, does a move for Neymar make sense? Or do you think this is incredibly irresponsible and Neymar is not the right profile or personality that our football club needs? So I guess right now is the perfect time to discuss Joao Felix. And currently, Atleti aren't too happy and impressed by how his current loan spell is currently playing out with us. Now, Felix has had his struggles, but for me and in my opinion, what player hasn't had struggles this season? Guess now that he hasn't started the past 6 games for us, it's nice that he was substituted on. He scored the final goal against Bournemouth, but it's not even be involved like that really in how many games isn't really a great sign, right? Now, as I discussed in my 4 Things to Learn video, I think Felix has to start false 9 against Nottingham Forest now with this Saturday. I can't hold Felix to unrealistic standards because for me, every player struggles. We haven't had set ideas or identities or ways of playing. It's been a mismatch of every idea. It's been a mismatch of tons of different playing combinations and styles, and it's no surprise that you're going to have a season like this. So I think it's quite unfair and unrealistic to expect Joao Felix to be this holy signing that's going to come here and single-handedly transform us, because even if he did that, that would imply that we're winning a lot more games, and that's something we're not doing at all. But anyway, let's go back to Atletico Madrid. When they loaned Felix to us, they were hoping that his value was going to get boosted because they're hoping to sell him in the summer window. They were hoping his value gets boosted to the tune of around 100 million euros, around 88 million pounds. And currently, Atleti aren't convinced at all they'll receive anywhere near close to that amount of money. And at this point in time, obviously, Felix will return back to Atletico Madrid unless we find an offer that satisfies Atleti. And currently, those two options are another loan spell or a permanent move. Now, in the case of a loan spell, naturally, based on his season, we'd want reduced terms for next season. And in terms of loan fee that Atleti ideally want for next season, that would be in total around £60 million, which is a crazy amount of money. And to be honest, could they really get that fee? I mean, there aren't many clubs that can afford to sign a player for that type of loan fee. And to be honest, I don't think Atleti have much leverage in this position right now. But anyway, let's turn our attentions now to the Evening Standard, because they report that we're also exploring the possibilities of, what it would be like if we signed Felix on a permanent move. And we understand that Atleti have interest in both Aubameyang and Marc Cucurella. So if we were to agree a permanent move for Felix, it is going to involve either both players or either one of them. Right now from these stories, I'm personally getting the vibe that all of these are like exploratory talks. We want to find out what the best possible option and deal is. Could we potentially let Cucurella leave? I mean, who knows? If that was the case, it would tell you everything you need to know about Ian Maatsen, who's been incredibly impressive with Burnley. And to be honest with you, I think, we should have waited for him to see how his loan spell ended and then given him an opportunity for next season. But at the same time, though, with Pochettino set to become our new manager, and reports confirming the fact that he wants to use a back four, it does mean that Cucurella's role of playing like the halfback or like the wide defender in a back three doesn't really exist anymore. And of course, he can play, across the entire flank on the left-hand side. Personally, I think that he could be given more time to really show what he can do. I think that it's really hard to judge most players because we've had no system and identity throughout. And that's going to make things hard for professional players like him. The interesting thing is, though, is that Atleti do use a back three and probably could benefit from a Cucurella in a role like that. So, let's see how this story plays out because things are very interesting. In my opinion, I think I give Felix another season. Right now, my friends, let's end things with the final story. And we have another interesting story this time around Gavi of Barcelona. Reports today from Spain suggest that Pochettino is a massive admirer of Gavi, but let's keep things real. I think 99% of managers across the world would be massive admirers and fans of Gavi. This is the guy that won the Golden Boy Award, so it's not really news in my opinion. But as we do know, Barcelona must free up space on their wage bill, and they must do so before the end of June. It seems like they're forced now to sell high-value players like De Jong and Rafinha because the squad guys they possess aren't commanding much interest or high fees. And when you have guys like Dembele, when you're hoping to bring back Messi, when you have Gavi as well too, of course you must get these guys on new contract terms as soon as possible. And they'd be absolutely crazy to allow Gavi to leave on a free. But at the same time, I guess we'd be a bit crazy to not try and, gauge the moment, assess this opportunity, and see whether Gavi would be interested in signing for us, knowing that we could sign him on a free. Now, how do I feel about our success rate at capturing Gavi? I'm not expecting much at all to keep things real. I think that the story is interesting on its own because it's like, okay, we're looking at quality players, but I've always felt that Gavi and Mount are kind of tied together in that sense because I think for me, if we did let Mount leave and, receive a fee for him, we know that we've looked at guys like BOEHLY from RB Leipzig and of course Gavi from Barca to be those replacements for Mason Mount. But knowing the fact that Pochettino is also a massive admirer of Mason Mount, knowing the fact that Mount has that engine, that work rate, the ability in both boxes to suit Pochettino's tactical ideas, it makes more sense for us to just tie him down to a new deal. And as we know from the latest reports around this, there is growing optimism now. And for me, it's simply this, once Pochettino is confirmed as our new manager, expect there to be more things happening now with Mason Mount once he talks to Pochettino and once, of course, the board, find an agreement, because we all know that BOEHLY and co ideally would prefer Mount to remain at this football club. So unless Mount announces that he is most definitely leaving, I'm not expecting much to happen from these Gavi links. And I guess at the same time, it's like we already possess tons of young, exciting mids. I think Cucurella has been incredibly let down. I'm really hoping that Pochettino uses him for next season, because I think he could be that successor to Ruben down the left-hand side. You're looking at Kante, whose influence is growing more and more at Reading. I mean, a real classy engine in midfield. And of course, guys like Andre Santos, who's one of the best young mids already for his age. And he hasn't even played for us right now. And he will be joining the squad next season. He needs to get minutes. So I hate this thing where teens, essentially, have to compete against each other to get that one spot in the team. And that one spot is probably like, what, a 15-minute cameo. So it just doesn't make sense. As reports have confirmed, Pochettino wants a greater balance of experience and youth. And I just think that adding even more young players right now, I think it's a bit of a techie situation to keep things real. So unless we're doing some madness, signing Gavi on a free, don't get your hopes up for this at all. So my friends, on that note, they are today's stories. I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.